Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting for the town of Stockbridge to order on September 23rd, 2021 at 6:30 PM. The first thing I want to do is I do have a couple of announcements, brief ones. One is that we have actually been now awarded the MVP grant. And so our regional culverts project, which includes the city of Pittsfield, the towns of Lenox, Stockbridge, and New Marlborough. We've been awarded $295,190 to assess road stream crossings and to work towards replacing problematic culverts. So thank you for Patrick.
Michael and
bringing
Hugh,
that up,
not me.
and
Thank you, guys.
Michael for making sure it all came
So
together.
is that money split or is that what we get?
That's split.
Okay, what do we end up with? You know,
It's HPA, which is right on Main Street, are managing it.
So, and then the second announcement is a sad one. We've lost a couple of residents. One, a past resident, Don Dino, who was a long-term member of the SBA, very interested, obviously, in the health of the lake, and had served the town on our Conservation Commission. So we're sad to hear that he has passed at age 97. And also Phoebe Eisenberg, also at the age of 97, has passed. And she was a teacher at Monument Mountain High School. So you had her?
I had her.
Yeah.
You had
I
her?
seen her not too long ago, yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately, sad announcements, but, you know, we miss their passing and their contributions, but certainly nice and long and productive lives. So first item on our agenda tonight is to take action on the meeting minutes from September 2nd, September 9th, and September 16th.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I also wanted to thank everyone that was involved in making this year's Josh Billings triathlon a success, but most particularly our employees, our police department, fire department, highway, and emergency management. So it all came off very well, even though it was limited and we didn't have any after event parties, but I think it was a big morale booster and it was important to have that come off smoothly, and it did. Next, we need to take action on one-day alcohol license applications for Berkshire Botanical Garden for a rehearsal dinner on October 9th from 6 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., a wedding on October 17th from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., a rehearsal dinner on October 30th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., and a rehearsal dinner on November 5th from 5:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the alcohol license.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Do we want, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody.
Pardon me?
I'm happy to vote.
I can't hear you.
So I'm happy to vote, but I don't know if you wanted to see if there was any comments from the.
Oh, well, yeah. Sorry. But are there any comments before we actually vote on this, on approval? Nobody? Anyone responding, Mike?
No hands up.
All right, so hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next item is to take action on the appointment of Peter Strauss to the pilot committee. Peter Strauss was interested, and after the first pilot committee, when the already appointed members were able to discuss it, and he did attend their meeting. They all are in agreement that they think he will be a good addition. So I make a motion that we appoint Peter Strauss, pilot committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Heartily endorse. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, so next up is joint meeting with Agricultural and Forestry Commission to discuss alternatives to treatment for the ice Glen trees. And we have a presentation. We have a number of you are here, some remotely and two that are actually here in person. So John Jacobs, who is here remotely, Kyle Burns. Hi, Kyle.
You guys can come up if you want.
You can come on up. Be closer to the mics.
And the cameras can see you.
And Bobby Paley. And is Stephen Reese here with us
I
remotely?
am. Yep,
There.
I'm here.
There you are. I can't read your name. Hi.
How
Hi,
you
John.
doing?
Good to see you, be able to put a face to a name.
Can I set this up for a minute, 30 seconds?
Sure.
Okay, so if for anybody who attended the last Agriculture and Forestry Commission meeting knows, there are issues, of course, there's generally issues with applying pesticides to save trees because there's other impacts, especially the kinds that we would be using. But there is a maximum amount per acre that can be applied based on labeling restrictions that have been approved by the State Pesticide Control Board, I believe. And to treat all of Ice Glen would require something like 8 times the amount of application that we could legally apply. And so we could either spread it out over 8 years and do the maximum dousing of neonics onto this property and try to hope that they don't die in the meantime, which if we believe the assessment we got may happen anyway. Or we were approached by this group, which has a pretty innovative solution, which isn't so much a pesticide as a wash that helps remove the insects and their eggs from the leaves. And they've had some success in their testing. I thought it was interesting enough that we hear about it, and because of the unforgiving timeline we've been given related to the current condition of the trees, actually Roxanne, I think that Roxanne kind of pushed to have us all get together and accelerate when this presentation could occur in a public meeting. And that's all I got. So,
Okay. So who wants to lead this off? John, did you want to lead this off and maybe just give everyone some background about the group that you're forming?
Yes, thank you, Roxanne. And my name is John Jacobs. Good evening, everyone from the Select Board and the Commission. I'm here to start off by introducing you to the Dendro team, which will provide you with additional information about its solution, which we think will help Stockbridge protect and preserve the Ice Glen, which is indeed a Berkshire's treasure. And joining me virtually are Stephen Reese and Dustin Cook, and in person are Kyle Byrne and Bobby Paley. And we thought, in the interest of time, while we're all happy to give a brief bio of ourselves, we thought it would be best if I just did a highlight for each of us. But we're more than happy to go with how you want it to proceed. But in front of you, I believe it's in red, is Bobby Paley, who's a longtime resident of the Berkshires. And she is a design thinker, entrepreneur, and social psychologist who has successfully invested across multiple industries for many years. Her company, Balco Partners, generally penetrates static industries and marries technology with turnkey services to reduce prices and provide quality services. Kyle Byrne, also in front of you, is a forestry and natural resource management expert, but he's also a certified arborist, and as you will see later in the presentation, a very innovative drone mapping specialist. He has worked in many areas in Massachusetts, New York, and elsewhere, designing and building out eco-based systems, landscape projects, etc., which are environmentally sound and sustainable. Virtually, Stephen Reese, Stephen's iPhone, is a managing member and COO of Greenwave Products, which manufactures and distributes organic fertilizers and pesticides globally. Greenwave has partnered with us to bring our technology to market. And as Steve is very happy to say, Ice Glen is our mission and Dendro is our solution. Next is Dustin Cook, who also is here virtually. Hi, Dustin. Dustin has over 25 years of experience in healthcare. He then founded PH2O, which manufactures Dendro. And Dustin's team has decades of experience bringing products from concept to maturity, and they're now focusing on developing alternatives to conventional chemical products for the agricultural and other markets here in the United States. And I myself am a 28-year veteran of the United States Environmental Protection Agency, where I specialized in pesticides and chemicals as both a senior attorney and as a manager. And since leaving EPA back in 2014, I've been working primarily on climate change, sustainability, and environmental justice related projects. So once again, I thank you for this opportunity to be able to present Dendro's team and our product to you. And at this point, I'm going to turn over the presentation to Bobby and Kyle, but I'd also like to share the screen if possible. So I assume I just click on share screen and we'll proceed.
Should be able to, yes.
Steve, are you there? Can he share screen?
Okay, I
Overall.
think it's good. Can you see the first slide?
Yes.
That's good, John.
See, technology.
So Kyle, Bobby,
Yeah, so first off, guys, we just wanted to introduce
You
you.
want to come up close to the mic?
You might want to come up closer.
Yep.
You can bring your chairs up. I mean, that's the way everyone can see
Do you
it.
mind if I stand?
No.
I'm a little bit animated, so I like to
Do whatever you need to.
around a little.
Space.
Yeah, so as John said, my name's Kyle Byrne. I've been involved with this project for a little bit over 6 months now. We basically came to the table as a group relatively recently. More or less, I'd like to have Stephen and Dustin go into detail right now about what Dendro actually is. The physical product, how it works, the nature of it. And, you know, we primarily want to give you guys an idea of exactly what it is. You know, it's not a chemical. This is not something that is a pesticide. This is a wash. It's a cleaner. We do not say in any way, shape, or form that this kills the insect. It's basically washing the needles and the branches of the adelgid. And I would like Stephen to go into a little bit more detail now about the product.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. Dustin, why don't you kick it off with the, what is Dendro, and I'll take it from after that.
Okay. All right. Hey guys, I'm Dustin Cook. Thanks for having us tonight. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
yes.
Great. So Dendro is simply an eco-friendly, non-toxic, it's a plant cleanser. Plants, trees, it removes contaminants, all types of growth inhibitors from live trees, plants, crops, etc. It comes in a powder, and you mix that with water. Once it's mixed with water, it completely dissolves. It's typically sprayed in a foliar fashion. And once you add the water, it instantly begins reacting into a very high oxygen solution, which is sort of, the magic sauce, if you will. Its application to trees or plants or crops removes those contaminants that hinder natural growth processes, photosynthesis, healthy life of ongoing healthy life of plants. It secures the integrity of the plant. It contains no oils, no harmful chemicals, and frankly, it leaves no residues behind. It's historically, we've used this product on all types of produce. On our early entry into the marketplace was the medical cannabis market. To ensure safe consumption. And as you guys, I'm sure, are aware, that industry is highly, highly regulated. And so coming from a healthcare background, delivering safe, consumable products to the end user has been very important to us. Our laboratory results from those, we had, stringent laboratory testing, and all of those came back with no microbials, no harmful chemicals, no contaminants detected whatsoever. We have applied it to hemp crops. We've applied it to pretty much every vegetable you can think of, or I can think of, most of them, and have done that during the growth cycle. But also we've used our product on almost all produce and vegetables, fruits, etc., in a post-harvest fashion. So that's from tomatoes and berries and leafy greens and just anything and everything to remove those contaminants for safer consumption. So it's certainly, it's a product that we've delivered and developed that is safe enough to go right into, to deliver a healthy produce right to a consumer, and it's certainly safe and healthy to save the tree, your tree issues there.
Thank
Stephen,
you.
go
Thank
from
you,
there.
Dustin. Right on. So I've recommended the use of this product in traditional ag in conjunction with our Agripower nutrient program. What we have seen is a removal of contaminants off leaves, branches, and produce. Once clean, it allows for photosynthesis to take place more efficient. In return, the plant, tree, crop is ability to uptake nutrients more effectively, boosting the overall health. Dendro is an eco-friendly way to approaching ice Glen's problem. We believe from Ken Gooch's years of research collaborated with our advanced technology and drone capability, followed by our Agripower nutrient tree care program, is the way of the future for this ecosystem and others around the U.S. I'll turn it back over to you, Kyle.
Great, John, if you want to go to the next slide so we can go over the process. So guys, I think one of the first things that I want to talk about right now is, our solution isn't just a one and done. We want to basically bring you through 3 primary phases. The first phase is planning. We want to know exactly what we're getting into. That's why I brought some of my drone technology today. In terms of the planning aspect, we will know exactly how many trees are within Ice Glen, what the diameters are, what the canopy sizes are, and we also will have a lot more detail in terms of the terrain following. So it's just crucial that you guys know that you're getting a system. You're not just getting a treatment, if you will. Phase 2 gets into the treatment. How are we going to apply it? Phase 3 is ongoing management year after year. We want you guys to know that we want to partner with you. Want to work through the scenarios and figure out 100% that it is working, show you that it's working, and bring you through the process as a partner. So planning aspect, what you see right now is it's basically the background image is one of the images that I did of the flyover of a portion of Ice Glen. You can see that there's different colorations in the slide. It basically has to do with tree heights. Usually the darker the color makeup, the taller the tree.
Excuse me, John, can you zoom in on that a little? Is that possible? Or no?
Let's see.
If not, it's not a big deal.
I can send you more detailed images of it, John.
All right.
So the pink is the higher trees, right?
That's correct. So planning aspect first gets into the drone technology. The first phase is the mapping drone. Basically what the mapping drone is going to do is it communicates via a base station. So this drone basically has centimeter level accuracy to come up with topographical maps, tree counts. You you name it, and it's pretty incredible. John, if you can go back to the last slide quick. The other thing I want to just state is speed and efficiency. This is incredibly efficient process for mapping, period. With basically the right base station, with the right makeup, with points taken in the field, this gets down to survey level accuracy. So you know exactly 100% what you have, proofs in the pudding. We also, through the time that I worked with, I went to school in Syracuse, Environmental Science and Forestry School. When I was there, I came up with different spreadsheets to basically figure out how the drone can differentiate between tree species, between leaves, between needles on the trees. And through that, we've come up with a proprietary software that integrates with the drone technology. Which basically means that you guys will have kind of a full-blown forestry management plan on top of the treatment. And as you can see, it's very comprehensive. Next slide, John.
Should I start playing it, Kyle?
Yeah. So guys, this is just a brief slide of some of the technology from another site that I'm currently working on. It basically is a 3D map rendering of what the drone did through its fly through.
What are we looking at?
Yeah, so I mean, what we're looking at right now is just an aerial view of the canopy. As you'll see, as it starts getting down in, you'll start to see more of the detail. You know, through the 3D mapping technology and also the LiDAR camera that's on the drone, we're physically penetrating the canopy. So, you know, we're able to see under the trees, we're able to see the tree diameters. You know, it's pretty extensive. And, you know, as you can see from the video, you know, it's pretty lifelike. So part of this process, which has already been kickstarted, you know, is to basically make and recreate a video like this for you guys and the map for all of Ice Glen. Next slide, John. So we're talking precision treatment here. The drone, first phase is planning, is to map. Second phase is treatment. The treatment of the dendro is also applied with a drone. It is not applied with a helicopter. It is not applied with a plane. The reason why we're going to drone application is because we can be incredibly precise on a tree by tree basis. The other side of it too is that with the new drone technologies, the nozzles that the solution is physically spraying out of is ionized, which basically means instead of a droplet, it's a particulate cloud. So as that spray solution is coming down onto the canopies, it's surrounding the needles, it's surrounding the branches. It's not just rolling off of the tree. It's something that I've now seen, and I've worked with it for a little over 4 months now. It's pretty incredible. And in terms of the, you know, Patrick, you recently talked about the treatment of the traditional neonac injections. You know, we comfortably feel that with the drone, we can pretty much have the entire Ice Glen forest blanketed within 2 weeks' time, basically 10 working business days. So in terms of being boots on the ground, having it ready, and actually showing you guys that it works, we can do it quickly. Also, this is a complimentary service. You know, we know that you guys have already treated a lot of the ash trees for emerald ash borer. this isn't going to do anything to harm that process, to disrupt it. So I think it's important too that, whatever you guys have already gone through, it's not going to harm that. John, want to go to the next slide? All right, so this is my T30, a grass drone. As you can see, if you look at the nozzle formation, it both has vertical spraying nozzles and horizontal spraying nozzles. So the difference between this drone and traditional drones is you can spray sideways up and down a tree. Where in the past, it was just vertical, which in traditional crop, when you're spraying crops, it's a uniform height all the time. Trees are not uniform in any way, shape, or form. So, we feel that, with this technology, and now that I've seen it in action on some of the other various properties that I manage, we've seen really good results. Also, yet again, want to hit upon sustainability. This little baby right here doesn't run on fuel. It doesn't run on diesel. It doesn't run on gas. Put a battery in it, it goes up. It's very carbon neutral.
You gonna scare the residents with that?
You'll hear it. This drone, it's about 10 times the size of this one. It sits about 3 feet high and it's about 6 feet wide. So it's big. And we've basically figured that we can treat in one flight roughly 2 to 3 acres per flight, which is about a 15-minute flight. So we can do quite a bit in a day with a bunch of batteries. Next slide, John. So we want to make sure that this is a turnkey service. It's a process that everything is involved, everything is under one roof. We want to make it very easy for you guys to do business with us. It's basically, we want to bring it to you so you guys, if you have questions, if you have anything that's a concern, we want to be the ones to try to solve it for you. Bobby, if you want to say a little bit to that too, in terms of the turnkey process.
Hi, I've penetrated a number of different industries with turnkey services. So I started 30 years ago with art assets, and there I took a very static, very rigid industry and began to offer services to real estate developers, owners, asset managers, and so forth, to do art services, to create a beautiful art program within their lobby, usually in 3 dimensions. So it's a flat fee service that we designed with curatorial services, insurance, legal, all the legal services and registration. And what we deliver to a client is a fabulous art program in a privately owned public space. So I've worked, Art Assets has worked all over the world. For example, with PricewaterhouseCoopers, we brought $1.5 million worth of sculpture to Davos for one of their programs. Turnkey services in this particular case, I believe, is really a much more expedient opportunity for all of us to use the latest in technology and the latest in nutrients and washes to help the trees. We're using this process on the soil as well, not necessarily Dendra, but other products within our within Green Wave. So I think what's important is I've been a long time resident of the Berks. I've been coming here since I was 12. I've hiked Ice Glen all my life, and it means a great deal to me that we can save it.
And thank you, Bob. Another thing that we also want to touch upon, which I'm going to hand this over to Stephen in just a second, is also
I'm just sort of
So good, I loved Angle of Republic.
I have that
Laura,
too.
mute.
Is that that's a different one? That one, Pulitzer Prize.
Laura, mute.
This one, I think is the timing is right on this.
Can you?
So this is the first one. I don't know, but this is one we're reading for the book group. So the
Oh,
theme
okay.
of these 3 books is aging.
Laura, you need to mute yourself, please.
Oops.
Thank you.
Moving on to, in terms of another part of the process, and also, on the management side of things. From a background of forestry and tree healthcare, I mean, you want to treat for the pest, but you also want to treat and help the tree come back to life. You want to help the root system. You want to help the tree basically get from being at the point of death to reviving it. So as we go through this process too, we also want to introduce some of our nutrient programs, which Stephen, could you shed some light on Agripower for us?
Sure, absolutely. Agripower is an organic, eco-friendly, environmental friendly product. It's focused solely on the soil rejuvenation, along with being a complete NPK. So that's from a two-pronged approach. We focus in on the soil as well as the nutrients demand that the tree has, and focus our products in that fashion. And like Kyle said, we can utilize the drone, and we can use other various options for penetrating the nutrient to the ground beyond the drone. But yeah, the product's been heavily used across just traditional farming and greenhouse growers, landscapers. We've got it pretty much penetrated into the market to provide a better product than the traditional chemical fertilizers that are out there.
Awesome, thanks, Steve. Also, part of the management process is going to be monthly checks. Because it's so easy for us to fly and monitor, it pretty much took around 30 minutes for me to fly all of Ice Glen in one flight.
You took like 1,200 pictures?
Yeah. And with that being said, also the whole monitoring process becomes very easy. We can get very detailed photographs. The idea is just to really see and make sure that, the product is being applied properly and it's working for Ice Glen. And another part of the aspect that's very, very important to us is, getting the community involved. We'd really like to have, the community take an active role in the process and seeing how this works. And also, getting everybody involved to the point where, if they see something problematic, let's bring it to light. And I think from there, it could be a very good solution and, hopefully holistic process for you guys to go through and, save the trees. Next slide, John. So obviously, why is it important? Trees are a legacy. I mean, Ice Glen is a legacy for the Stockbridge area, I think, for the East Coast in general. It's an old growth forest stand. They're very few and far between. So I think that, you guys have something that's, very important, as an ecosystem for not only you guys, but for the rest of the world. And I think that if we can start here and helpfully, help you guys through this process, we would like to, also extend those services throughout the East Coast and beyond. We also want to make sure that we're preserving the forest for recreational use. If the trees aren't there, it becomes very difficult. and your walking paths are going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be hard on the community, so it's something that we really want to try to preserve for you guys. Do you want to add anything to
I
that?
think another important thing is that Ice Glen is our lungs. We can't afford to lose them.
Absolutely, and, from where we want to go from here, guys, is, we want to show you. We'd like to do.
So what we're suggesting is, since it's September 23rd. So in the next couple of weeks, we can do 25 trees and do a test and show you how it works. And by the time spring comes, I think we'll see a significant difference. So our opportunity is to do a test run this fall while we can, while the weather's good. Look at the results immediately, look at the results in a month, and look at the results in early spring. And I believe this will be a solution for all of us.
And that's something we want to do for the town.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we're here to offer this service this fall to see if we can save these trees, if we can extend their life.
I know that when I talked to John, this collaboration, when do you intend to be incorporated?
Well, Balco is incorporated. Balco is a company that has been in my family since 1951.
Right.
And what I do is I come into these industries, I invest in them, and then I put together teams. So John and I joined forces last June. I've been involved with Steve Reese and Green Wave Products in a very significant way in the past year. And Kyle comes with Steve. So we've been building a team. We started, Roxanne, when I was saying to Tom that everybody's used the Housatonic as a toilet. And I want to go swimming in my river. So I decided that, there are so many solutions today for phytoremediation, for PCBs, for radiation. We're working with a team of the Navajos where there was uranium mines, and our technology and phytoremediation is cleaning those mines. We believe that we can do that with the PCBs and other toxins. So we've worked very closely with the EPA over the last year. John has got their confidence. And I think it's also not a Trump EPA anymore, which has been very important. So there's been an acknowledgement over this past year of our conversations and work that phytoremediation technology is the future. And therefore, the EPA has just issued a $100 million innovation grant. They've encouraged us to apply for at least 1 or 2 tranches. And we will use that to show that phytoremediation can work on PCBs. So then Patrick and I were talking, I guess we were hiking, and you said, can't you do this for trees? And so here we are. We think we can, and we think it'll be successful. And we're here together to save our Ice Glen.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Thank you. Have you ever treated algae on hemlocks or any other tree as a proof of concept?
Can you say that one more time, Eric?
Have you ever treated the algae on hemlocks or any other trees as a proof of concept that this works?
Yes, a couple hundred
Where?
in Catskill Park.
What was it, Catskill?
Catskill Forest Preserve.
Okay.
Ask him if he wants to see it. Does anybody want to come and see the test that we did?
Do you have data?
Do you have pictures?
Yeah, we can send you guys the photos, absolutely.
Okay.
Can you send us the contact information of people there?
Yep.
Okay.
How long a period of time have the trees been healthy?
This is just recent, this is just this year. So this is just first run. It's kind of very similar preliminary to, what we're going through with you guys right now.
So the chemical, the dendro doesn't kill the insects, it just removed them from the tree.
That's correct.
What keeps them from coming back?
Well,
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're gonna come back year after year. The only thing that is going to take care of the insect completely is if the global climate decides to cool, which I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon.
So how often do you anticipate spraying?
It's gonna have to be an application that's gonna be done every year.
Every year or monthly or biannually?
Every year. I mean, what we've seen right now is that with one treatment, it keeps them knocked down. It keeps them at bay.
For how long?
For the cycle of the season.
How long have you been using this, this material? I mean, honestly, I can't find anything on the internet about
You're not going
any of
to.
this stuff.
You're not going to.
So we'd like to know about your research and about
Yep.
the history of use of this stuff over time, not just over one season.
It's easy. We can do that, not a problem.
But you're also asking them to spray in a couple weeks. So
That's correct.
and look at, they're not asking, to put it into context though, they're not really asking for anything. What we're observing is that we thought we had a solution to either, to basically spray with this neonic, and it turns out we don't.
Well, I
And so-
have to correct you on that too, because it's not that we can't spray. Our application that we were spraying with, it found out we couldn't spray it the way we wanted to. So we can use an injection method.
Okay,
and
that's
treat
fair.
all
That's
the
fair,
trees.
which would take a bigger budget, I get
Yeah.
that. So the question now is we really have four options if you consider not doing anything. We can do nothing, we can inject to what our budget is. We could spray a very small percentage, up to maybe 15-20%. Or we could do a hybrid strategy, which is sort of like, maybe kind of something that's interesting, which would be to do a test here while we, at the same time, pursue a strategy to get the RFPs done for the more traditional approach. We don't have to make a decision all or nothing one way or the other before next year, but it might be helpful to kind of keep our options open by simply like doing a dual track of pursuing the RFP on one hand for the injection so we know what our budget's going to need to be, while at the same token, pick 25 of the worst trees and see if it helps them.
So why do we have to do Ice Glen though? Because as far as I'm concerned, there is woolly delgid throughout the whole forest.
Yeah.
So why are we pushing this for Ice Glen?
Well,
Wait a second, because that's the old growth forest, and that's
Yeah.
why they reactivated the Agriculture and Forestry Commission.
I mean, you're right that we could do a test. You got some land?
And why is it on public land too? Like, I want to be very careful here that this is a test
Yeah.
that we are doing, and I still have not seen any.
Right.
I've gotten word after word that it's good for food and this and that. But I've seen no proof of
We just
anything.
got an invitation to this meeting. We're
Gotcha.
happy to provide all of the
Gotcha.
slides, all of the data.
Yeah,
We got what we got
yeah,
put together in 2 days.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I want to say that Kyle has been working full time. I was in New York presenting at C3 and then in Boston at a pharma conference. So we're delighted to give you everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're good at it. We're scientists. That's what we, care about.
So I just want to clarify a few things. So basically, it's under Balco that you would be operating.
Balco is our operating company, yes.
Okay, and Dendro is this proprietary product?
It's a company, and we will have a separate.
Okay, what's the product name?
Dendro.
It is
Dendro
also called
Wash.
Dendro. Okay, so is this similar to, like, say, Pure Harvest and some of these other chemically, is this?
Not chemical. Nothing is chemical. It's all organic. Every product we have is organic.
Well, it must
So
have a
what's the powder?
chemical composition. That's what I'm
Yeah.
referring to.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about pesticides or herbicides, I'm just talking chemistry.
Right.
So, But,
Dustin, maybe you could answer some of these questions.
Yeah, I think Dustin should.
Yeah. So our company is called PH2O, and PH2O manufactures and distributes a number of different brands, and have been. We've been doing this for over 5 years. and Dendro is one of those brands that we are manufacturing. So yes, Pure Harvest is as well. So it is similar in a chemical makeup, but we manufacture different different ratios and recipes and makeups depending on the application.
Okay, so the Dendro has been used, the same composition, chemical composition has been used on hemp crops and in Catskill Forest Preserve in terms of trees.
It's been used on hemlocks, yes.
Dendro has been used on hemlocks in Catskill Park.
In Catskill.
Dendro has been used around the country for hemp and cannabis plants and agricultural plants.
Okay, thank you.
So the first time it's been used on hemlocks was, it's been about a year.
That's correct.
That's the only track you have
That's correct.
of if it works, it doesn't
More,
work.
no
or-
less.
And we've applied it to apple trees, citrus trees, pecan trees. I mean, all types of ornamentals, some ash trees here in the southeast. And so it's certainly been applied to trees and crops year after year and we've got, our customers come back and use this year after year because it does work. And not only does it clean the contaminants, but it actually leaves the trees and plants in a much better, healthier look. And even from some of the tests that Kyle did, the difference between before the wash and after, it's daylight and dark. It looks like, we're washing away decades of contaminants that are just strangling this tree and limiting growth.
What are contaminants?
Well, it could be anything from simply particulate matter in the air. We've worked a lot out west with the fire issues. So from ash and smoke, polluted air, particulate matter that comes from the smoke and fires. It could be excrement left behind by bugs. It could be their cocoons and various different structures that they leave. It's anything. And honestly, a lot of what we do in the ag community is simply, most pesticides have some oils and chemicals and things that are left behind. We remove those as well. So because when you mix it with water, it creates that high oxygen solution. It literally is like a detergent. It comes in and cleans off the surface.
Dustin, what's left after the application?
So one of our strongest benefits or assets, in my opinion, is that once you mix the product with water, it's only active for about 24 to 36 hours. So as a result, it leaves virtually no residues. The only residue left behind are trace amounts, and I mean trace amounts. We can document this, but of potash and water. And as you guys probably know, potash is a very common and popular nutrient, and when applied foliarly to any plant, it typically improves the situation. So, but it's very trace amounts, not really enough to make any difference.
So when you treated those trees, what were you treating them for?
What's that?
The trees you treated
In Catskill.
in Catskill,
Catskills?
what were they treated for?
Hemlock woolly eligible.
What about elongated scale?
That too.
And when did you spray? Did you have to spray in the sun? Could you spray when it was raining?
Direct sun.
Direct sun,
Yeah.
no foliar, no burning.
Nope.
Hugh, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just haven't heard any mention of wildlife other than the insect that you're trying to deter. Has anybody been monitoring any change in habitats? Because anytime you introduce chemicals or anything into a new environment, it affects the system. Has anybody, I'm not trying to throw a wrench in it, I just wanted to ask, does anybody monitor, there's a lot of critters on the hills, so does anybody monitor that? Or
100%.
do we see any influx, decrease, or stay the same, or?
Yet again, this is something that we've just recently done. I'm not here to say yes, no, or, this is, from what I can tell under I manage a little over 5,000 acres of land.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's both residential and commercial clients. My residential clients have been very, very receptive to it. They're also will not spray pesticides. I've had to physically show them through safety data sheets through information that both Dustin and Steven's given me that it's not harmful. They don't want it around them. They don't want it around their dogs.
Your children?
So, you know, the hardest thing that I was up against is, you know, this tree injection. I mean, you know, I'm a certified arborist. I have 3 other certified arborists that work underneath me. And, you know, they're also certified applicators. So we can inject, we can spray, but right now, I would say 8 out of 10 of my clients don't want it on their property. They don't want anything to do with it. So for me.
Do with what, with pesticide?
With pesticide.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's become a challenge, you know, with the changing environment of, you know, and I have to say, you know, I live in a small community just like this, and even smaller than this. So for me, like, a lot of my livelihood revolves around second and third homeowners that own larger tracts of land, and, you know, they don't really know about the land. They just know that they don't want anything that's going to harm their kids, that's going to harm their dog. And frankly, that's negative for vegetation. So, I mean, speaking to that effect, I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, I've had to bring people through this process, and it's frankly, you know, it's something you have to see. I mean, it's not something that, you know, I don't expect any of you guys to go home tonight and, you know, realize or think that, you know, it's 100%. I mean, you have to physically see it. I mean, and to physically see it, to your point, you know, it doesn't need to be an old growth tree. That frankly, I mean, it can be a hemlock bough that gets cut off of, you know, a tree in your backyard, and I can show it to you. I mean, it's as simple as that. But I mean, the process of anything else that I've seen out there in terms of effectiveness, is it the end-all solution? Absolutely not. But it's a way of mitigating the problem without neonicotinoids.
Hey, Kyle.
Yes.
Can I just to answer the safety when it comes to humans and pets and everything? My background's in healthcare, and we, as I mentioned, our company develops a number of products for the ag industry. We've also got this exact same product that we're introducing into the healthcare industry, and for applications on the human skin, for skin issues, psoriasis and toenail funguses and all sorts of things. So is it safe to be in contact with a human? It is. So but the other thing I would tell you is we treat lawns and various different things, golf course type lawns, residential lawns, because homeowners don't want some of the traditional treatments because they have to wait 72 hours or so before they can let their dogs or their kids back out on the lawn. And that's just not the case with our product. So we don't have any, we've never seen our product do damage to, animal environments or things of that, human environments at all. Most of what we've worked with in times, most of the time people want to use our plant wash versus, some of the other chemical applications, is because those chemical applications are having those exact, compounded impacts on honeybees or other native species that you don't want to harm. And so that's really why a lot of folks use us as an alternative.
Wait a minute. I want to point out something. Agriculture and lawns are monocultures. And we are not dealing with a monoculture. We're dealing with a very, a complex natural ecosystem, and pets really are not the problem. I mean, we're not concerned about pets. We're concerned about the possible effect this might have on the natural community that's out there in this old growth forest. So, the fact that it's fine on, on an agricultural field, honestly, it's irrelevant. I mean, an agricultural field is not a natural environment. So it's just, you understand. I mean,
100% understand.
yeah.
No, We get it.
No pushback from this side.
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand your concerns, and I think that that's, yet again, through some of the data that we get back to you.
So what was the reason the Catskill Forest Preserve was treated? And what was their motivation?
Well, it wasn't the forest preserve per se. It's my residential clients that I work for within the forest preserve.
Okay,
Yes. So, this hasn't been, applied for a state agency or a federal agency. This has been applied on private residential lands. And within those private residential lands, yet again, it's a client base that, is very concerned about the ecosystems around their properties. And, for the longest of time, I mean, I didn't really have a reasonable solution for them. It's always been traditional methods. And, for the first time, this is something that's different. It's a new technology. I thought it was smoke and mirrors at first too. But after repetitive applications of low dosage, high dosage of, I wanted to take it to the max to see, does it burn the needles? Exactly what you were bringing up. And, we brought it up to, Dustin's max dosage, and there was 0 signs of any needle burn. So, it's something that I just think that you have to see to believe. You see it, we'll give you guys the tools to research what exactly it is. We'll show you that, and then through this process of doing it right in front of your eyes, it literally happens within 15 to 20 minutes. You'll see it happening right before your eyes.
what exactly are we gonna see happen?
Yeah.
So it basically, when you see it, there's a foaming action that starts to happen,
Okay,
or basically around the Adelgis axis.
okay,
And as that starts to happen, they start basically breaking away from the limbs and the needles of the tree.
okay.
So it's basically washing it off of the needles and off of the branches.
To follow up on Hugh's comments, has research been done in terms of the impact on beneficial insects?
It is not,
Okay,
not in a tree application, it is not.
okay.
No.
But it sounds as though it was commented that it's been used on nut trees for years?
Dustin, how long have you guys been using Pure Harvest?
We've been using Pure Harvest for 5 years. We've used it on a variety of different pecan trees, some oak trees, and citrus trees for 3.5, 4 years.
Okay, so none of that kind of research has happened in terms of what impact it might have on the native insects, et cetera, and other wildlife?
We have, probably not in the format you're looking for, but let me do some digging and look back through some old things, and I will provide it to Kyle to get to you.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm sorry that I came late. Could we talk about the soil, what do you know about how it affects forest soils in particular?
You mean the product itself?
Yeah.
That's actually probably better for Dustin and Steven to talk to. I mean, as far as I know, it does not have the effect on the soil.
Has it been tested though?
That's a question for Dustin.
So yeah, the one thing I'll tell you about the product is it's a plant, it's a detergent, right? It's a plant detergent, plant wash, and it's really not selective about things that it washes off, right? I mean, I can't sit here and tell you, well, it's going to wash off this pest, but not this, or this contaminant, but not that contaminant. The application method that one of the things that was so attractive about this process from our perspective, because we worked with a lot of different application processes throughout the industry, is Kyle and his team are using the precision drone with the electrostatic spray nozzles. And the electrostatic, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but It's simply it puts a charge at the end of the nozzle where the sprays that come out are basically the opposite charge of the plant. So for example, if you've got spray coming out that's positively charged, the tree branches might be negatively charged. And so it wraps and it's atomized. So it's very small micron sized droplets. And they basically encircle the pine needles, the branches, and everything he's spraying it on, and they're attracted to those surfaces at about 90 times the force of gravity. So they really stick to it like glue. It's an electromagnetic, it's just that the laws of attraction, right? And so because of that, you're really getting very little, and obviously we can do some testing with dyes and various different things, but you're having very little drip, you're having very little overspray, versus just as an example to share with you, the traditional spraying processes, typically compared to electrostatic processes, it requires about 40 to 50% of the less to do electrostatic. So it's, say you're gonna, normally you might cover an acre with 100 gallons, you would only need 50 gallons to cover an acre with electrostatic. So it's a much more precise technology that attracts it right to the intended surfaces, and you don't have any runoff and leaching and that sort of thing.
So, but do we know the effect of that 50 gallons on soil pH, on the nutrients in the soil? Do you know, is there anything?
Yeah, I can get you some documentation on exactly what we do to pH and soil, et cetera. Absolutely.
And nutrients too.
And nutrients. Okay.
Thank you.
And can you talk to why farmers orchardists would be spraying this? What are they normally treating?
Most of the time, it depends on, there's two different applications we typically see. One is during the growth cycle of the plant, and the other is post-harvest. And so during the growth cycle of the plant, contaminants of all sorts, like we talked about earlier, are getting on the plant surfaces. They are causing a very limited photosynthesis, and other growth, natural growth processes are inhibited. And so they also, if they're applying foliar nutrients such as Stevens Agripower or other nutrients, they don't have the stomata and all the different little plant, the channels, the life channels on the leaves and stems. They get clogged with these contaminants, whether it's, again, from smoke and ash from fires, or dust off of a dusty field road, or any type of particulate matter, bug excrement, pesticide oils, etc., that are just going to land from a natural environmental perspective on the plant surface. And so they clean them off to get better uptake of nutrients and just really a revitalization of the plant, because it can now operate at 100% photosynthesis rate versus, say, a much muted or stunted, 30, 40, 50%. On the post-harvest application, it's typically to remove contaminants just for safer consumer experiences, whether it's removing, pesticides or other, contaminants that might be on, like we talked about with our history in medical cannabis, that has very stringent laboratory testing. Same with hemp, the hemp industry, but also heavily in the produce industry, whether it's tomatoes or any kind of fruit or vegetable you could imagine, just to remove those contaminants that are on it, which typically lend toward a longer shelf life and a safer consumption.
You said there was a spec sheet for this chemical, lawn chemical?
Eric, yes, I actually handed that out.
Have it.
The SDS safety sheet, I handed out to the board. We can also distribute that electronically too, so you can take a look at it.
Is there anything on there that would be harmful?
Well, I'm going to read you, I'll read you the chemical list. Citric acid, sodium percarbonate, trade secret oxidant stabilizer, trade secret surfactant. But I can make sure that all of you get a copy on agriculture and forestry, and we'll make a copy for everyone. We'll get it scanned and we can even email it to you.
John, do you have it? John, do you have it?
Yes, I do.
Why don't you send it to Roxanne and she can distribute it electronically?
Okay.
Okay, great. Make it easy.
Thank you.
Now, my understanding is the only, a little bit of potash, which certainly wouldn't affect the soil. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir. The only residuals left behind are trace amounts of potash, and then it obviously evolves into some trace amounts of water, but.
Yeah, okay.
One thing I'd like to say, something has to be done. I hope this is the solution. I really think it's these generations that are gonna save these trees. But one thing I think we can all agree on in history is whenever we made a mistake and identified it, it's been too late. So I think, we just gotta have a little caution, maybe a little more research, and see the reflex on everything involved, so.
Absolutely, and I think that's also, part of why we want to outline, the partnership in terms of the planning and making sure that it's right for you guys. I mean, and also the future management. I mean, we don't want to come into a situation that is just like one and done.
Right.
I mean, we want to be here, for the long haul.
If nothing's done, they're in trouble. But we just don't want to make everything else come, snowball effect. So that's the only thing that's got me concerned. But
What's the pricing structure? How does this, how do you figure the cost on this?
We'd be able to send that over to you. We can send
We'll
that.
put together a proposal.
Yeah.
And I just want to, look, 8 months ago, we were made aware of a problem by Mike Morey, who you guys have now pulled on board, by Bob Leverett and by Ken Gooch. And in the subsequent report that we commissioned, they gave us 1 to 3 years where we could see a significant die-off for these trees. So look at where nobody wants risk. Nobody wants risk, obviously. And these are jewels, and I think what we need to balance is what are our options? What are the downsides of those options? And is it worth executing any of these options for this forest? Because the point has been made. In fact, when we met, who was his name, Cliff? We met with the gentleman over at Chris Greendale's. He made the point that things have a beginning, middle, and end. It could just be that we end up not being in a position to save these. And that is not an unreasonable decision. But, I think what we want to do is see, is there a way to not necessarily do all or nothing and look at what some of our various options are? Because I never loved the idea of, at least if you're injecting the neonic, it sort of stays in the tree. But, a number of people have pointed out to me since that ash trees do flower, so God forbid whatever is in there is basically systemic and it's now going to impact whatever, but I think saving ash trees was the right decision. Don't get me wrong. But all of these decisions are going to have trade-offs and, at least speaking for myself, let me just say, we've asked for experts to come in. We've asked for you guys to help us. I'm comfortable with whatever decision you guys come up with whatever Michael comes up with, and whatever this board comes up with.
The process should be the Agricultural Commission should take all this information, digest it, come up with your thoughts, and then bring it to us. This is yours.
Yeah.
Right.
This is your, this is your baby to push it forward, whatever.
I have a couple more questions, please. Is there a time limit when you cannot do this anymore this year?
Yes.
What would that be?
I would say we wouldn't want to do it any later than mid-October.
It's going to get cold and change quickly.
Yep.
I mean, starting at tomorrow is be in the 60s,
Well,
40s.
it's just also getting to the point to, you're not gonna, it's gonna be thrown at bad, I mean, and ideally, the best time to do it is late spring, early summer. that's where you're gonna have the greatest effect.
So what our proposal is to do a small test so that everybody can see what the impact is and watch it, frankly. More and more citizen scientists are coming into play. Journalists. I think it's up to us to also be involved in our environment. And so what I would like to do is see that we put together some little campaign and go to the schools and see if we can get students to come and watch what we're doing, to monitor what we're doing, to hike there and to report anything they see. And in this way, we get the community involved. It's our treasure. But if we look at what happened on January 6th, if we look at what's happening elsewhere in our politics, what I want to say is that it's our turn to monitor ourselves and not leave it just to government and not leave it just to the feds and whatever. We're here. It's our treasure. Let's do what we can. And let's bring in the community to help us and to watch it and to be involved and to be protected. Because in the Berks, we've got to protect our soil. We've got so much dirty water and soil and so forth. This is our opportunity to take charge.
Can we bring it back to the point? I'm not going to make a motion, but I would propose to let them do a sample of the 25 worst hemlocks that were probably going to die anyway. And let it do it on a timely basis, which is now. And then we'll see what the results are.
Yeah, I think, well, like we said, we do have a meeting coming up, which we were going to talk about this at, but we've already had this presentation now, beginning of October. John, I've emailed a couple times, and Kyle have also been emailed. So that information comes to us and we can look at it. If we need to, we can try to have it pushed up earlier. I know we're running up to the deadline, but I think we need the information. And I think I agree with you, Eric. The biggest thing for me personally is that it is the old growth forest.
Yeah.
We do have other lands and other public lands with hemlocks. We know that they are woolly adelgids right out that window right there. But to turn an old growth into a test lab within 2 weeks is very concerning to me. Whereas if we have other hemlocks we know of somewhere else in a logged land, I am more apt to be receptive to that. But rushing this through very, 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 very fast is a lot right now. But John has my email, you have my email, and you can send all this information that we have asked questions tonight so that we can start looking over it all and then talk about this and you all be invited to our next meeting in October, obviously.
The other thing that I want to say too is that we've recently engaged a testing lab in California that is going to do an active test for us. Stephen, can you talk to that in terms of the test?
Yeah, well, it's really just replicating what Kyle has done there on the ground and just proving it in a lab. So with any luck in the next few weeks, we'll have those results. Yeah.
It'll basically be a third party, real deal lab that's doing the test, and it's under, lock and key. So
happy to share the lab with you guys in the communications and the follow-up.
Okay, and the lab is receiving samples from where?
From my private properties.
Okay.
The one thing I was really interested in seeing is before and after of the hemlocks you've sprayed.
And I do a field trip too.
I was going to ask that, can we do a field trip?
It's only an hour away.
We're interested in looking.
It's a gorgeous spot.
Yeah, seriously, Kyle, invite us down. I'll be there next week if you want.
Do we want a field trip?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
Sunday?
He lives in Stockbridge.
This weekend, I can tell you that.
Oh, Kyle's about to get married and this is his.
All right.
Well, actually, I'm going deep sea fishing this weekend, so can't do it this weekend.
But to
I'd
Eric's
settle for the pictures.
yeah, to Eric's point, we have no problem emailing those over to you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is in the hands of the Agricultural Commission right now.
And I just want to say, you guys asked all the right questions tonight. The town is so lucky to have you guys, Agriculture and Forestry Commission on this. I really feel a lot more confident that you're looking at this. Some of us, we have the bias of we want to have a solution, and so, let's just adopt it because God knows we don't want to die. And the more measured approach really makes a lot of sense. I wanted to thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
And we'll definitely be in touch by the beginning of next week with a lot of follow-up info for you guys.
Yeah, if you guys send me it, I will distribute it.
Do we have any hands up over there, Michael?
What's that?
Are there any hands up? Does anyone from the
No hands
public
up.
wish to ask any questions at this point?
I thought I saw a comment, a question show up in text in a chat.
No, that was just asking us to stop screen sharing so they could see the conversation.
Karen Marshall, do you know her? I don't know.
I have one more comment before we.
What?
I have one more comment. Just,
Well, if you-
Roxanne, I have one more comment.
Yeah.
Which I'll try to find out before the next agricultural meeting. I don't know the specific life cycle of the delegate.
I can very easily.
Okay, so we can find that out, because I don't know if they've already finished eating everything they're gonna eat, doing all the damage.
They're good, I mean, they basically continue until nothing's left. I mean, that's.
Through the winter?
No, they go dormant in the winter.
That's what I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
mid-October where they are.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting, I mean, as it gets cooler,
Yeah.
they slow down.
Right, so that to me would speak to
Now-
whether or not we need to be doing it in October if they've slowed down, or it's something we can do in the spring.
Yes, but you're still, I guess the thing of it is you're still gonna see them being washed off regardless. So whether they're dormant or not dormant or active, you're still gonna see it happen. I mean,
But
it's,
won't they come back next year?
oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's like I said that earlier, they're like, this isn't, like a one and done
Right.
deal. It's something that's, the only thing that ultimately eliminates them is consistent cold temperatures.
Right, no, I understand that. I think the point of my question is, what's the optimal time to do this? Is the optimal time to be doing it now?
Spring and summer.
Spring and summer, right. So that speaks to whether or not we need to rush to do it mid-October.
No, I think just a test in October.
Just a test.
Yeah, I think just a test and then getting you guys the right information to make an educated decision.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's kind of the name of the game. And then also, the test is to physically show that it's working. And I think that coupled with, the lab results from the third party, I mean, it'll be pretty evident what's going on there.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you for the.
Very
Thank you
informative.
for taking the time to try to figure out ways, I know.
Because-
And if we could schedule a trip, not this weekend,
Yep.
but at some point, I think we probably have at least several people that would be interested in going to
Yeah.
look at the
This
other.
town is big on field trips.
The other thing I want to say too, it's like, I can bring it to you. I mean, it's very easy. Basically, a really simple test is with a 1 gallon pump sprayer. We take down a couple boughs, they're just trimmed off the side of the trees. We basically we flip it upside down. You see it's got woolly adult on it. You treat it, come back an hour later, you'll see the results. As simple as that.
Would you like to do that too, also?
We might.
Sure, I'd be game for
So
that.
let us get you data. We'll be in communication, but we're here and we care.
You communicated with the Agricultural Commission
Yes.
Yeah.
directly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Thank you very much.
for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Meet you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, come on.
Who knows?
Okay.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Seriously. All right.
Okay.
Keith, you look worn out. Imagine being us.
All right, Laura, get back.
Hi. Can you hear me? Oops, wait a second.
I think the last thing that he said was that he could come and show you directly. Take him out to the nearest tree and have him spray it.
With us.
It was the white guy on.
You were off. God, no, I had it off.
Oh, we were off. Laura, I didn't see George Woodbury when I just looked at the console.
He's light smart,
Is he there?
light smart.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Good night.
Thank you. George, are you with us? All right, we need to close.
Do you want to take a 1 minute break while we wait for Michael to come back, or?
Yeah. All right,
Second here.
we're going to take a couple of minutes just to take a break and make sure that everyone is in attendance. Let's take 3 minutes.
All right.
Okay, we're going to see if we can resume.
By the way, that's wholly indulgent, not dandruff.
All right, Patrick, we're
What?
beginning.
What?
We're
Or live.
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 So, George, is that you? Hi. Can he hear us? Laura, can you hear us?
You're muted.
Okay, well, you're muted.
Can you hear us, Laura?
I can
Okay.
hear fine.
George, you
Oh,
good?
Can you hear us, George?
good.
Okay, what do you got? Sorry.
we need to hear your report.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so you want me to start, or is there an intro, or?
I can introduce you for just 1 second, which is probably not really with your bio. You could probably do that better, faster. But just to say that we've been meeting with George for the last few months. And I think we're just, George has presented us with a preliminary design. And I think we wanted to share some of the key elements and attributes of that, maybe some of the costs and savings information. I think what now is really an opportunity, we want to brief you. We want the public, whoever's listening, to also have an understanding of what's going to happen if eventually, whether it's sooner or later, we hope, or the committee does, as we've worked on this, because there are some good opportunities here. And I think we're following in the footsteps of probably 100 and something other Massachusetts cities and towns who've realized that there are a lot of benefits in public safety and in the aesthetics and in the cost savings. But really, we're here to hear from George on some of his thoughts, and then we can start to compile some of the questions and concerns that people have so that we move forward in the most thoughtful way.
Pardon my ignorance here. This is John Hart speaking, but what are we talking about here? You took a break and then there was no intro as to what we're talking about.
Okay, so John, for over a year, I can't remember when we started. Actually, I started this about 2015, then a gap of about 3 years. And then when Roxanne was elected, we kind of restarted this. She said, well, what about streetlights? And way back in 2015, there was no financial benefit and there were really no incentives. So there was not there were the environmental benefits, but with the difficulties of change, as we know, it just didn't seem like the right time. And then when I spoke to Joanne DeRose, our National Grid representative, she said that things have really changed, and now National Grid offers incentives and also savings to retrofit streetlights with LEDs and about 50% of Stockbridge streetlights are incandescent. So we have great opportunities. And so then we started to pursue that. And as we worked through this, mostly me and Buck Smith as co-chairs of the committee, we discovered that most communities are looking at, this gets a little bit technical, but there are lots of different, George is a great educator, but there are lots of different issues when you select even an LED light. And so that the one that we seemed like we wanted for a variety of the environmental and others, National Grid didn't offer. So it started us on a path which is the path of could we own and manage and maintain our streetlights and then do a retrofit to LED lighting, and what would the savings be? And does the town have the ability to do that? So the first step was knowing that this is more complicated than other things, was to hire a consultant, a vendor who has a lot of experience. And we hired George Woodbury because he was the DPW manager of Lexington and was very active in the very, very beginning of this whole movement, I would say, and then also helped create and write the legislation in Massachusetts, whereby a town can purchase its fixtures and lamps from National Grid, and then has helped, I don't know, you'll correct me the number, but probably around 100 towns go through this process. So is that helpful, John? Okay, George.
Yeah, actually it is.
Good.
And just as long as,
Let me jump in.
just as long as we don't end up looking like Disney World, it's fine with me.
Good point.
Do we get
So,
rides?
Mass General Law 164, Section 34A was passed into law in 1998. And in 1999, the town of Lexington and Acton, working together, purchased their streetlights under that law. At the time, as Laura mentioned, I was the Director of Public Works in the town of Lexington. And we had 3,342 streetlights and a $500,000 a year bill, which I was able to reduce to $100,000. So it was very significant savings for the town. And that's what my motivation was. And as Laura has mentioned, to date, I've assisted over 102 Massachusetts communities with their streetlight acquisition. I've also passed legislation in Maine, Rhode Island, New York, and I'm working with the Maryland legislature and the Maryland Public Service Commission right now on legislation to allow this in the state of Maryland. So what the first step was in the process was for the town to complete an audit of the streetlights and determine if what they were being billed for and what was in the field and what the condition of the lights was in the field, so that you could get an assessment of what it might cost you if you took over the lights in terms of both short-term maintenance as well as long-term maintenance, and what the cost of a conversion project would be and what it might look like. So we went out and I personally conducted the audit with my wife. We found that your numbers are actually reasonably good. There was about 5 lights that were on the inventory that don't exist. But we also found a couple lights that do exist that aren't on the inventory that probably belong on the inventory. For example, that light at the crosswalk right out in front of the town offices, that brand new aluminum pole. We looked at the lighting level requirements, and based on that, I prepared a preliminary analysis of the light levels and the what would be required to replace the lights with the new LED source. And the other purpose of the audit, of course, is we wind up with a GIS database that can be used for asset management as well as for project management. The way we manage these projects is the new lighting design is overlaid into the GIS map. So when the installer is out there, he can look at the map and on his iPad, it'll tell him what fixture is there, what he's supposed to install. It allows him then to annotate when he completes the work. If there's a problem at that site, he can take a photograph and annotate that information. And so we get real-time information as the project progresses. And at the end of the project, we have basically a GIS database of what was done, which makes it much easier to when you have to submit the final reports to National Grid. So based on that, and talking to Laura and Michael and some of the others within the town, the lighting committee, I did a preliminary design, and what we wanted to do was to accomplish uniformity. So ideally, if you're on a street and there's no particular reason for it, every light on that street should probably be the same. This keeps it very simple when you're trying to maintain the lights, and it also makes it easier if somebody requests a new light, you know what needs to go there because they're all the same. But you may have certain circumstances such as a crosswalk or other places where there's higher pedestrian activity where you need brighter lights. So this was part of the audit process to identify those locations. We also want to do a design where the light has the ability to be adjusted in the field. So that if you have a complaint that it's too bright, it's glaring in my front windows, or it's not bright enough, those adjustments can be made without having to go out and purchase an entirely new fixture. And that doesn't really cost you any money to select a fixture that has that capability. We also wanted to take into account glare considerations, and to that end, that's the single most common complaint about LED conversions is centered around glare and brightness. So it's important that you don't overlight the town. It's also important that you select a fixture that offers shields, something that can be attached to the fixture easily that will shield lighting either across the street, left or right, or on the back side of the fixture, in case it's trespassing into somebody's windows or is a problem. Another consideration in the design is the color temperature of the light. Some of you may be aware that there was an article written by the American Medical Association a number of years ago in which they said that street lights were making people sick, and they recommended that people use a 3000 Kelvin temperature lamp to avoid having too much blue light content. While their recommendations are consistent with what people generally prefer, the fact of the matter is their conclusion that streetlights were making people sick was entirely wrong and has been completely disproven. But nevertheless, that thought process is still out there, and some people still are concerned with that. And the fact of the matter is, we believe it's still something that should be considered, and so we did as part of our design. We also wanted to make sure the lights were dark sky compliant, so that we didn't have any uplight, that we projected the light only where it was needed and wanted. And the last thing we looked at as part of the design was part night dimming. There is a photo control device that operates basically on a clock that allows you to set a time when the light will dim and set a time when it comes back up to its desired brightness. And we've been doing that now for about 3.5 years with over 20 to 25,000 lights in New England, where we, at 11 o'clock at night, we dim the lights by 50%, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, we bring them back up to their desired operating temperature for early morning commuters. To date, we've not had a single phone call from anybody who's even noticed that we've done it. The human eye doesn't detect up to about 30% dimming, so 50% dimming is barely noticeable, and if you're standing there watching us do it, you will see it. But if you're inside when it's done and you come back outside, you simply don't notice it. But it also is, it helps, it saves energy, 26%. And at the same time, it also reduces the amount of light that can affect wildlife. So it makes those folks happy too. So all of those factors were taken into account. And based on that, we came up with a preliminary design, the information about which is in the report that I supplied to the town. But basically, how does this all look. Mike, do you have available to, for the select board to look at the report?
Yep, there you are. What
Okay, if
page?
we could go, I gotta tell you what page to go to. It's towards the end. It's the cost and savings figures. Keep going. What we're looking for is, there you go. That's the correct page. So what on this table, what you see is on the left-hand side under current is what you're currently spending. And the way you pay for streetlights, it's broken.
Hey, we'll be right back. We lost power here. It's restarting. Hey, George, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we lost power here, so we're just starting back up. Give us 1 minute. Yeah. Everybody else is on it. We're just not.
There we are. Hey, we're back.
Is that me? Sorry.
Two.
All right. Go ahead, George.
All right. So what we have here is in the left-hand column is what you're currently spending for your streetlights. So basically, the way you pay for a streetlight under the tariff, there's 3 charges. There's a fixture charge, which is a flat rate charge that you pay every month, depending on the wattage and type of the fixture, as well as any special. You all have a lot of dedicated metal poles, and you've got a couple wooden poles that the only purpose they serve is for streetlights, and so you pay a fairly hefty price for those poles. You then have the delivery energy cost, that basically reimburses the utility for the cost of the wires and poles to deliver the electricity to the streetlight. And then you have your supply costs, and that's for the actual kilowatt hours that the lights use. And in Western Massachusetts, National Grid allows 4,150 hours of operation each year for the streetlight. And that becomes the basis of calculating how much energy they use on a monthly basis. And they have a table that allocates those hours on a day-by-day and month-by-month basis to compute it. So basically, you're spending $33,892 a year for the fixture costs, and you're spending about $14,688 for the energy costs. And so your total annual operating costs are around $48,560.76. Now this changes every quarter because they adjust their rates, but this was based on the most recent rates, but it should be fairly close to what you've been spending. What happens when you purchase the streetlights is the fixture charges go away. They become $0, but they increase the amount of the delivery charges. So that's why you see that the energy, delivery supply energy costs go up slightly. It's because for customer-owned lights, they charge more for the delivery costs. And then you have to allow for maintenance. Now, in the case of an LED system, you have about a 1% per year failure rate, if that. But with your existing system, your failure rate is closer to 20% per year. And what I've decided in this case, because of the condition and age of your system, is to allow a much higher amount of money for maintenance costs, at least in the first 2 to 3 years until things stabilize. So what you see here is that if you were simply to buy the streetlights from the utility, own and operate them yourselves, you would save about $14,000 a year. And that's assuming you needed all of that 15,000 I've allocated for maintenance. So your 10-year savings, if you just own the lights, is $200,000 a year. And that's what I was going after in Lexington when I was the director of public works. Now, if you convert your lights to LEDs, as I indicated, two things happen. One is your maintenance drops dramatically because LEDs have a 10-year warranty to start with, and their life expectancy is about 23 years, whereas your current lamps and photocells have about a 6-year life expectancy. So your maintenance costs go down. And then secondly, they require about 70% less energy. So your energy costs are going to go way down too. And so your total cost would go to about $7,600 a year with an LED system. So that you would be saving out of your $48,000 annual bill you have right now, $40,000 a year. What we don't know at the present time is what the purchase price of the system is. You are required to pay the utility for the net book value of the asset. So those figures are not included here.
What does that mean?
What they're going to
Sorry?
charge us for taking over the fixtures. Buying up.
For the most, over half of your lights are incandescent light bulbs in what's called an Admiral's hat fixture. The old Admiral's hat fixture was the first attempt at controlling light trespass. So those Admiral hat fixtures were designed to spread the light up and down the street, but block it from going on across the street or behind the light, affecting the homes on either side of the street. So those things may have some value to some communities that treasure those things, but for the most part, the ones I saw, they were in pretty bad shape. People had been taking pot shots at them. They showed signs of impact.
Literal
from
pot shots? What do you mean pot shots?
Well, I suspect somebody was trying to shoot the lamp out with either a pellet gun or a BB gun.
Oh, okay.
You could see where the porcelain on the fixture been knocked off in a circular pattern. So in any event, the conversion to LEDs, what I've got shown here is an estimated cost of around $52,000 to do the conversion. I've also allowed, because of the age of your system, in my estimates, about $26,000 in system repairs. So this includes replacing some of the old mast arms, doing a lot of rewiring because those incandescent style lamps haven't been installed since the 1920s and 1930s. So they're probably more than 100 years old. And it's probably still the original equipment. So I think it's fair to assume that we're going to have to replace a lot of that with some new equipment. The utility does offer incentives to help with these costs, and those incentives are based on the number of kilowatt hours you save each year. So you get basically 25 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's estimated that you'll get money from the utility to help pay for the project of around $26,750. The last column is the column where I've shown you what the cost would be if we installed the special photocell that dims the lights after hours. And what we find is that the cost to do that short term, as you can see, we go from 1.4 years payback to 1.5 years payback. So, it takes you about a month, a little over a month worth of savings to cover the added costs. But what happens is you're going to be saving more energy year over year. You can see that on the total operating costs go from $7,600 to $6,700 because of the reduction in the amount of energy you're going to use. You can see that in this delivery supply energy costs for the LED with that dimulator device. The project cost goes up a small amount, but you can see the 10-year savings are higher. So that's the costs. Now, obviously, depending on the nature of the LED you select, these prices can vary. An LED fixture today can run in price from about $125 to as much as $185, depending on who the manufacturer is and the nature of the capabilities that you choose to purchase in the light and the style of the light. Generally, I've done well over 200,000 LED installations. My expectation is that really for y'all's community, the only two considerations would be a standard simple LED fixture or one that has what's called a diffuser or glare reduction device on it. The difference in cost between the one without the glare reduction is about $25 to $30 per fixture. So we're not talking large amounts of money here.
And we have 200 fixtures?
Yeah.
200, okay.
200. So, $6,000. Again, you're still talking about a return on investment of under 2 years. So the next step in this process is for us to find out a couple things. We're waiting to hear from National Grid what the purchase price of the system will be. And in conjunction with that, we want to know how much of the underground system is dedicated to the streetlights. Because when a town purchases these systems, any dedicated poles or any dedicated wiring goes with the sale. And the issue that we have to be concerned with is for the underground wiring. If you have to dig up a sidewalk or dig up a street to repair an underground wire, it can be very expensive. So it's important that we know and can anticipate what those costs would be. What I recommend to cities and towns that wind up with a good bit of underground system is that they need to establish a reserve or a stabilization fund. They take a portion of the savings for the first few years, set it aside, and have it available in the event that they have one of these repairs. They'll already have the funds in place to do it. Once you do one of these repairs, you don't have to go back. I mean, underground wiring is good for 50 to 100 years if it's done right. So
It's expensive.
But that's something we're going to be watching very closely, and we've already reached out to you all's NGrid rep to inquire as to whether or not there are any underground wires that the town would acquire. If the underground wire serves both the streetlight and distribution, you're not going to own it. Only if it's dedicated to the streetlights.
How does it get repaired if it's not dedicated?
They're responsible.
They're responsible, okay.
National Grid is responsible for it.
And even though they have no revenue associated with fixing it, if only the light's out, they don't care?
If only the light's out, right, they don't care. We'd have to set up a maintenance agreement with an electrician who could.
Right, but I'm talking about the underground. I mean, the electrician, I'm assuming that's the.
If it's dedicated, if it's not direct, if it's just a tie-in, then the National Grid has to restore the electricity to the pole.
All right. And so is the 4,000, George, is the 4,000, assume the sort of, capitalized cost of some of these underground repairs, or is that a wild card that's not built into the model yet? The $4,000 in the maintenance line.
$4,000 might cover one underground repair.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So
in your experience with 200 lights over the course of, let's say, 5 years, how many underground repairs could we expect to have in New England? Do we have any idea, any projections based on your prior experience?
Very. I wouldn't expect you to have any, quite frankly.
Okay.
One of the big questions, though, which we're hoping to get answered in the next couple of days, hopefully, is how much dedicated line we're actually dealing with.
Right.
Right now, that's an unknown. We don't know we don't have an answer for that. So there's still a couple pieces here that haven't fully been closed out, but we're hoping to close them out soon.
And are you confident we can find a vendor to do the electrical repairs of the
Right now, Pittsfield does contract with an entity for their repairs. And one of the ideas could be looking at piggybacking on their maintenance agreement. Because we need to be prepared to fix the lights now, because it won't be called the National Grid, it'll be called Town Hall. There's those street.
We're looking at options there.
We are looking at all those options. Yep.
I like the idea
What I will
that.
say, I set up a maintenance program for 23 communities in Rhode Island, it's the Partnership for Rhode Island Streetlight Management. It's called PRISM. That includes the city of Boston, the city of Providence, Cumberland, North Providence, Warwick, West Warwick, 23 of the communities in Rhode Island. And we've been doing this now for 4.5 years. I don't think we've had one underground repair yet.
Which means we'll only have 20 or 30.
That's 65,000 total streetlights that we're managing. But nevertheless, for a small community, if something like this happened, and given the age of your equipment, it is something that Michael and I need to look at very closely and make sure we evaluate it so that you all have the information you need to make a good informed decision.
And are we making any decisions tonight, or is this just?
Yeah, there is one decision that needs to be made tonight, and the one thing we'd like to go is Laura would like to ask this committee that she wants to apply for DOER grant for the upgrade project cost. If during this process, we can always withdraw from it if it's something that we don't want to continue, but the application, Laura, is October 8th.
Yeah, the application is due on October 8th. I think we need to know that everyone feels comfortable with it. At this point, I think we can go ahead with it. We don't have the answer to every question like the underground wiring, and we don't have the purchase price. But so there are a couple of unknowns that hopefully we can figure out. We know that DOER is going to take a while before they even start to evaluate them and get back to us. So there would be a few moving parts, but we have a couple of weeks now. So the question is really everybody's comfort level in moving forward on an application, knowing that we haven't been approved for it, but we would get a better feeling from DOER and from getting the answers to these questions in a pronto way. And then if we decide that this is not, that the timing isn't right, or we need to take a step back, we could do that. That's.
I only have one other question. Georgia and Laura, what is the relationship between severe storms and light repair and maintenance? Do severe storms typically impact lights? Or is it just sort of like, no? Okay,
No.
Good.
I'll give you a good example. I don't know if you recall, but in Fitchburg, who has almost 3,000 streetlights, they had that major ice storm that got Unitil in the front page of the papers.
Mm-hmm.
All of their lines were down from the ice storm. Out of 3,000 streetlights, only 50 were affected.
Okay. My point being that I'd be, if we're presenting numbers in terms of savings to the town with an expectation that some storms get worse, I wouldn't mind seeing that maintenance cost line go up to maybe 50% higher, like 6,000. There's still a tremendous savings over 20 years, but we haven't created such a blue sky, rosy scenario that we're creating expectations that we, depending upon how storms play out,
I know my recommendation will be to take some of the annual savings each year and stick it into a reserve.
Stabilization.
Like a stabilization
fund,
okay.
in order to protect us in case we end up with any of those.
Right.
But a lot of times in severe storms, it's the power lines themselves that are taken out, not the light fixtures themselves. So
I just would rather see 10-year savings a little lower and maintenance costs a little higher if we're going to present a budget too,
Let me give you an example. Let's say the storm takes out a pole and the pole has a street light on it. you all will be a part of what's called engines. And there's a system where that pole will be put back up. And at the end, you reestablish the street light. The cost to put a brand new street light with a brand new mast arm back up on that pole is about $400.
To do the whole thing?
Parts.
Yes.
No.
In parts,
No,
right?
no, parts and labor.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I
not,
can't get my lawnmower repaired for that.
Cheap for me, but.
Has any community had remorse for doing this? Everybody who's done it been satisfied?
He's asking, was there any communities with remorse who regretted it?
I'm not aware of a single community that has expressed that they wish they hadn't done this, but let's be real clear about something. This is a conversation I've already had with your town administrator and as a former DPW. The problem with cost savings like this is their savings in the first year, and after that it's cost avoidance. And so as a former DPW, if the streetlights were part of my budget and I figured out how to save the town $300,000 or $400,000, and next year they cut my budget by $300,000 or $400,000, and now I have more. So so it's really a matter of managing this, and that's why we set up the PRISM program, so that the towns didn't have to have anybody that managed it. They pick up the phone and they call us and say, hey, go fix this, and we take care of it.
Yeah.
And during the interview phase, and Laura, you can step in on this too, there was one community toward the eastern part of the state that, due to the salt spray on the lines, it was only a year or two after they had bought the maintenance of the lines that they had to do a major replacement. And it was just a shock of having to replace so many lines. Do you remember what community that was, Laura?
No.
That was the only one I was aware of. That
It wasn't West Springfield, but it was one of those communities. I can't remember. Agawam, I think.
Yeah, it was the salt.
Was it Sudbury?
Oh, Pat, were you the one that spoke to him?
Yeah.
All right.
I think it was Sudbury. It was on the coast.
Yeah.
Right, they were on the coast and it was salt spray from the ocean, if I remember right.
Well, it was just the atmosphere with salty atmosphere.
Yeah, Agawam doesn't have a lot of salt.
No, it wasn't Agawam. But I remember that at one of our meetings that, you had said that there was one community, and it was more, not the regret with the program itself, it was just the timing of it, that they ended up getting hit with a lot of electrical wiring upgrades. So, yeah.
But I wanted to say the one thing about, I think that Patrick's point about being cautious on the maintenance costs, because the first year is really the shakedown year, where if an LED light's going to fail, it's going to fail. If people are saying, oh, that light's, that the light's too bright and we want to go up and reduce it, you probably want to wait till you have enough lights to make it, you don't want to call someone one light a week or whatever. But there are going to be adjustments in the first year, and then ideally and hopefully it starts to go down.
What I did in my cost estimates was I allowed for 3 years of increased costs in maintenance, and then I reduced it. So in the 10-year savings, that's.
Are we ready for a motion to do the grant?
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, John, go ahead.
No.
You, John?
Go ahead.
I want to know who said no.
Me.
Anyway, we have quite a few very nice large trees in downtown Stockbridge. And if you go there tonight, you will see that many of the crosswalks are shaded by those trees, which probably isn't a good idea. However, the ambiance of the trees during the daytime is quite nice. So what becomes of the trees? Is Ash de Blunk or whatever the heck their name is come in and they start trimming trees back and we end up looking like Greenwich Village?
Or
No,
Sally's Road.
no.
This doesn't include any tree trimming. This
Doesn't have anything to do with it.
LED bulbs at this point.
We can turn them up though,
No,
John.
it's a different issue in terms of, especially on Main Street, in terms of adding additional lighting perhaps. But that would be part of the intersection project, not part of this lighting project.
All right, just asking.
Yeah, most of the crosswalks are going to be moved anyways.
You know,
So we have to deal with that when we move the sidewalks, move the crosswalks.
Uh-huh. The trees were pretty expensive to put in and keep up, so I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, we're going to do everything we can to keep the trees as they are.
We don't care much about trees on this board, so.
Yeah, but, you know, when the crosswalks get moved to where they belong and stuff at the intersection and the main street, then, you know, we'll do everything we can to protect the trees when we put the lights in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would be adding additional, next year crosswalks, not tall ones, but, shorter ones. So, yes, we need a motion.
I make a motion, we allow Laura to apply for her grant.
Of course.
No, it's not me, it's the town, it's not.
The town.
I'll allow you to pursue it.
You're the one doing the work.
I'll make a motion that we pursue the grant.
Second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 You got it.
We can,
Go for it. Get us some money.
Thanks, George. Thanks, Laura. That was really informative. Awesome.
I think, and the other point is if people do have questions or concerns, they should just feel free to reach out to me and I can share those with George and Mike and we've done a lot, but we, just like John mentioned, there are things that we're still working on and questions that people are going to have.
You want to give your contact email or something if they're?
Sure. I mean, I'm Laura Dubester@gmail.com. It might be under the Green Communities Committee, way to contact me. Or if someone forwards something to Mike, he can just forward it to me too, if that's
You
okay.
can call me.
Yep, that's fine.
okay. All right.
Thank you
now,
all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you.
Okay.
Thanks for being here so late too.
Yeah, it's getting late.
Yeah. I'll make a motion. We push these last two items.
Well, I want to make sure.
Oh,
Tom, are
for
you
us.
here for this discussion on the entertainment license renewals?
Maybe we should just do
Okay,
that
so
one.
we have an audience, so I think we have to
Okay.
continue. We don't want to make you have to come back again another day.
I mean, as interesting as this was,
But we may be a little too tired to be very coherent.
No, do what you need to do. I think if I can say something, you all know how I feel about it.
Right.
So,
Well, I can just tell you in brief, basically, I've talked to Donna Brewer on a number of occasions. And basically, one thing that we've already done, and that is Teresa has been working on the applications to make sure it's very clear to the applicants exactly the level of detail that we need to see. So we need to see those diagrams of the property, exactly where they're proposing to do what. And oftentimes that's been missing. So that's already a process that's begun, and she's been working on them. So she's doing a good job, and she's a stickler. So she's reminding people that they haven't sent in their diagrams.
And that's one of
Since we've done it.
right, and that's one of the things that we wanted to make sure to get out to everybody is that this year we're recommending, myself, Teresa, that you guys don't consider any application that's not full and complete. Includes the diagram showing exactly where performances will be, what areas they will be, because looking back, we've been a little vague. And vague is not a good thing to have. So we want to make sure places tell us exactly where it'll be held, what'll be held, will it be indoor, will it be outdoor?
Parking.
There's some parking, everything.
Amplified or not amplified?
Yeah, we need those
All that detail.
answers so all the decisions can be done right. I know that when you went to the annual licenses, because it is offered out there for all the residential operations, that even though you have a standard hours of 11, individual projects can be looked at. And if they're specific to that area, you can place reasonable restrictions onto a property. What you can't do is just say, well, they're in a residential area, we're going to restrict them different than one other. We'd have to say specifically why a place should be treated slightly different.
Right.
And that could be a reason. So we are tightening it up. Teresa's doing a great job. She's looked at what other communities have asked for. She's updated our applications. And like I said, we're going to be insisting that every piece comes in because of what hasn't been done. It leaves it ambiguous what area they were requesting, where they've used, what they're using. We want it specific so that when we authorize these, we know exactly what we're authorizing.
Right, and this is specific to each individual property. So we have a number of nonprofits, for instance, in residential neighborhoods, but each one of those residential locations is very different in terms of its geography, in terms of how close are the houses, is there any buffer zone, et cetera, et cetera. So we can take that into consideration in terms
Chesterwood's
of
so much different than the theater festival, that's different than Tanglewood, which is different than
Botanical
Namkeg. It's hard to have one blanket policy that covers the town when things are so different in each one.
That's what worries me is that what I've heard is that because Tanglewood has an entertainment license, they can have outdoor performances. So everybody who has an entertainment license can have outdoor performances. Whereas the theater never had outdoor performances before.
Right, but that's not the case.
Right.
I've confirmed this with town council. So basically, based on each individual property and its location, we can make determinations and we can put different conditions on them. So they don't have to be absolutely uniform within the residential zone. We can take all that into consideration. But it can't just be, we have to have a good rationale behind why we're doing that. And when we do something, if we have another similar property, then clearly we have to be similar. We can't, vacillate wildly between two different properties unless they have very unique characteristics. Yeah.
A few things. One, most of the events we see at Tanglewood now are at the Lindy Center, which is only a few hundred feet from the closest house. So I'm not sure distance is going to be a factor. I still would maintain.
Lindy Center is totally soundproof.
It's not. They had an event till midnight. People open the doors. Every wedding, I'm not complaining about it, but every wedding they've had there, you could hear.
Really? Okay. That's good to know.
And
I think density, population have to have something to do with it. And
but another option for us to look at would be to pull parts of North Stockbridge out of the residential zone and make it another type of zone. And I think that we should consider that.
That's a possibility. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that certainly is something that we could look at, but that's not an overnight solution. That is something that has to go to annual town meeting.
I get that, but now it's where we, if we're going to work on some things this year, I think we should make that list because you and I we all worked very hard on what those priorities were going to be to go into town meeting. And we're getting to the point where we should sort of enumerate them.
Yeah.
Right.
And if I can.
But yeah, so we can take various things into consideration. Absolutely.
I'm sorry?
I said we can take things into consideration, so we can look at them, and I think that you saw that, earlier this summer.
And just,
It was addressed.
and we have heard from many people, this is not, there's some balance act. You don't want to be unfair, but at the same token, folks, these are residential
we
neighborhoods.
hear for every event, not every event, but we heard complaints on every one of these nonprofit things from the garden center to Chesterwood. I mean, so it's not a quiet little thing in your part. It's every one of them we do get noise complaints, time, traffic. And that's what we got to deal with and address and try to come up with a balance between.
And generally, the solutions, this is government. And so often the solutions take at the very least a month or two or three or a year annual license or a new bylaw or a new zone, or sometimes it takes time to implement legally a desire to change, having been working for myself for a while and working alone, I'm used to making a decision and that's it, and, for good or ill. It doesn't quite work that way up here. And so, I empathize with you, but, we're listening and we're brainstorming on solutions, but those solutions they might be 22 or 23 before, who knows? I mean,
Takes time. Even the bylaws that have already been passed, we're still waiting for
Right.
approval. So everything takes
I
time.
appreciate that. I think that the history of what they've been able to do before is a precedent. They haven't been able to have outdoor performances.
Yeah.
I agree. I like the fact that they were doing them because of COVID. I thought that was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want that to set a precedent. Okay, now they can keep going.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my fears.
And it was loud.
Yeah, that's been one of my concerns, is that I've heard that a lot, and okay, it's because of COVID, but now that this is dragging on, is this gonna continue this pattern? That people get used to a pattern, they don't like to change it back. So,
Thank you.
well, we feel for you.
Good.
Okay, let me see, and updates on DPW security improvements. So we just need to know where we stand with the gates and.
We're still figuring out the gate.
Thank you, Tom.
Everything.
Tom.
I know we had a good 2-hour meeting the other day down at the DPW with my public service group, which me, Mike, Buffoni, Tony, and Hugh, because we have a number of issues down there, from the layout to the security to our salt shed to our everything.
Not the
So
salt shed yet.
we're working on a plan to come back to you guys and say, here's what we're going to put in here, here, and here. I don't have any more details at this point. Got tied up in some other things, but we did meet on it and begin discussion of how we'd lay out everything down there. So we are working on it.
You need a drone like that guy Kyle had.
No, we'll just call Nick. Nick has one.
Yeah, that's true.
Are we still like non-functioning on the gate?
Yeah, I'm just gonna bring that to your attention, that the gate is non-functioning, there's power to it. The motor, the drive seems to function, but any ways to control it, whether it be keypad or remotely, is non-existent. So, I can shut the gate from the inside, but we can't get back out. I'm up there, and I reached out to a couple different places, to get some, information on, what we can do to get through this, whether it be
We know who the installer is?
I reached out to Berkshire Fence. I've called them a couple times. I haven't,
All right.
and I've just reached out to All American also today. I reached out.
How old is that?
That's been there a long
Oh,
time.
that's ancient. It's
Yeah.
probably
So-
30 years old.
Add us after the chain link fence discussion, probably.
But, we did get estimates though.
Yeah, we have some pricing on
Fix it or
costs of
No, to do the new one
the new one.
Well,
and to
double it and do the other one
hopefully
too.
included in that is also changing the locks, the locking system. You go into fobs or whatever.
Right. We've.
Well, the problem is the controllers are 4 to 5 generations old. The
Right.
parts aren't even available to repair that or maintain.
So we're gonna have to add another additional cost because of that controller on that gate.
We're hoping we can utilize the drive system that's there, that hopefully that's my hope anyway,
We might have to look to a replacement of both gates, yeah. So, yeah.
Well, we were talking though about a third. We were talking about the separator because
Separate, right,
priced out
yeah.
was water and sewer gate, which we had approved. And then we talked about the separator gate that could separate water and sewer from highway.
Water and sewer gate, is that like some scandal?
Why would you want to separate?
You're the one who,
I want to separate the compactor from the highway.
that's what we're,
Well, that's just separating the water. Well, that's where the highway
but
goes
that's
in.
because that's when water and sewer comes in on call. When they have to come in on the weekend, their gate is open.
Right, but if we get a good fob control, the gates can be open and closed right behind.
Yeah, it should be open.
So if we go to more modern gate systems, you don't have.
Then you know who's in and out, correct?
Can you and Hugh and,
I want to separate.
Yeah.
I think you guys should bring a solution to whatever you want to do.
You a solution.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
So we have money for this, so, right?
Well, we have money to do one
To
gate.
do some of it.
That's about.
Tell us what you need
I mean,
and, you know.
we are coming up with a plan to address all of it.
Good.
Down there.
And we have a
And we
motion.
began last week. Yep.
All righty, so we have any comments from the public? How you doing out there, Keith?
Very comfortable, Keith.
So
You're
wait.
making me fall asleep.
No hands up.
Okay.
All right, hearing none, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.